In one packed week, we pushed out shorts for the pharma project that you'd classify as safe. That is a bolder alt edit that protects the human story, while simultaneously pressure testing a brand new talents podcast where CTR and retention disagree. I'm going to walk you through what won the agency over, what the numbers are saying on talents, and the exact changes we are making to allow talents to have a shot. The surface metrics can look fine, but if click-through and retention aren't aligned, there's a problem. That is where we're at right now. By the end of this, you'll understand what changed the edit conversation for United, what we're shipping next with mixed media and extreme contrast, and how we're using shorts and segments of the podcast to stack up why the algorithm learns our audience. All right, lane one, let's jump into it. So for United, we had a pretty successful week for the short form. It has pushed into review with client and we have momentum. As they continue to have review for the hero, we were successfully able to actually present our alternative edits and for them to actually love it. They were pretty adamant about sticking to the script. So we went two ways on this. We did one version which was exactly what they wanted, went through it with the director, cleaned it up, did exactly as they asked. And then we took the extra time to create an alt edit, which was going to be a better delivery and safer for them, but also protect the human story and actually create a more effective edit. The biggest problem with this project has been from day one, where the script from the testimonial has been extremely robotic. And funny enough, they actually had the person giving the testimony sit in the chair for 6 hours and just feed them line after line. And so they're giving us a one sentence line, and when we create and craft a story, it feels very robotic, having just one sentence after another and piecing it together. And the hard thing about this, especially in editorial, is having to piece two different things together. If we're trying to say something that doesn't actually exist in the way and the delivery that was made in the one sentence, we have to sometimes splice two together. And so with this short alt edit, we also had that issue. And the big win from this is really that they absolutely loved the direction of the alt edit. It was something that we just gave them as a suggestion. It wasn't very much so pushing for it. I just let them know, hey, we want to protect the edit, protect Sarah's story, and give the best. We created some alt edits that we think is actually going to be better. And obviously, I think the easiest thing about this is we were able to go about this in a quicker, faster pace because we already spent about 4 to 5 weeks on just the hero edit. And we were very familiar with the footage, very familiar with the story that we're trying to convey, and it allowed us really to make this quick change for the alt edits. One of the hardest things that we're challenging right now is actually the display and how we're utilizing mixed media. And so in the hero, in the shorts, we're actually going to be presenting mixed media in the edit with some UGC content and some other just lifestyle content that's in it. And one of the biggest things that we're running into is the lack of contrast and the lack of storytelling in the stylistic of what we're using. And we're actually having two conflicting stylistic choices from the agency. And so what we're doing on the back end for us is actually doing this alt version concept again, where we are going to go in and actually create something that we think is stylistically going to fit better and allow for the story to flow in a much more beautiful way and be more emotionally connected. And so I'll keep you guys posted with that, but I'm not sure how that's going to pan out because they kind of told us that they didn't want to go in that direction, but they didn't see what we were thinking. So we're going to create it anyway and present it to them. And the hard thing about this is what we constantly chase after is how can we make this better and really get involved with how does this connect with people in the audience. And so we constantly have to come back to this conversation and go, we're going to fight for this and we're going to go and actually give this the best for you guys and come alongside them as a guide rather than a company that says, no, you need to listen to us. We just want to come alongside you and let you know what this looks like. And so these are the constant conversations that we have to navigate, and knowing that they are a collaborator, that they are a partner, that this isn't, hey, we're trying to win our position, but really trying to find the middle ground. So that's what United looks like. Client review on the shorts. We got a big win on that. And next week, we got a bold proposal for the stylistic of how we showcase the mixed media. So let's jump into lane 2 with talents. I feel like this is going to be a constant conversation where talents is genuinely not hype. It is just the consistent, how can we lay this out? And over time, we're going to be seeing results. We just posted a podcast with Cody Jefferson, and it was an amazing conversation. And honestly, even though it doesn't have many views, we're getting a lot of great feedback for people actually being inspired and moving to actionable things where they are trying to change things in their lives and trying to change things in their business. And so this is amazing to see right off the bat with just very low volume, but we're seeing people's lives already being changed. And that really is the goal with this podcast. But the cool thing about this is we just started. This is podcast number 2. And this is just amazing to see all that's coming from it already. Now I'm going to go into some of the metrics that I have listed here, and I'm not trying to focus on this every single time, but it's just important for growth and how we're actually adopting new things and adjusting as we go. And really the concept of this is I want to show you guys what does it look like to build and what does it look like as you go, and the failures that you have and the things and the wins that you have through it. And so some of the numbers that we just pulled from where I last saw it was about 122 views roughly, and the metrics are mixed. So this is where it gets a little bit difficult. Is our click-through rate is 3.9%, which is nowhere where we want it to be, and our retention though is starting to pull up, whereas last podcast it was about 35%. This one's at 39% retention. And so we have a growth in that where we're actually made some changes to the front end of our podcast, and it looks like it genuinely actually impacted it. Now it's difficult to just take one-on-one video when there's just not that much data to run against. So we're going to continue to do this method where we actually extended the hook of the intro of the video and shortened the transition from the hook into the actual podcast. And so I believe that this will actually get us the retention rate that we need moving forward. So the conclusion that I'm actually landing on is that I don't think YouTube knows our audience yet. And I think that's the big thing that we're hesitating with. How much do we adjust with our click-through rate, meaning that our YouTube thumbnail and our title is not packaging correctly, or it's not hitting the right audience. And the biggest reason I think in this is our thumbnails are definitely in the span of attention grabbing, but the issue that I believe is happening is YouTube just doesn't know our audience yet. And so we're really trying to push in that place with SEO descriptions and tags and titles. And I think after 5 to 10 podcasts that we release, we'll start being able to see a big increase in views and a big increase in traffic and engagement with audiences on YouTube. So I'm super excited to keep you guys posted with that. Obviously that will take a couple months before we get there, so hang out and watch the journey as we go there, because it's quite interesting the things that we're learning and what we're going through. And I just hope that maybe this is helpful for you as you're building. One of the biggest adjustments that we're actually making to test and see how this goes is actually doing segments of the podcast. Instead of just having a 1-hour podcast and then having a minute short and posting, like, let's see, we're posting 1 a day, so that's roughly 11 shorts. With these segments, we're adding in about 3 to 4 videos that we're posting, and so we're posting 1 a day until the next podcast. Every 2 weeks we have a podcast. Every single day we post something. And so these segments are kind of a cheat and a hack to continue posting consistency, because YouTube loves that, but also to try and drive traffic more into the podcast, where they may watch now a 10 to 15 minute segment of the podcast and now actually want to go watch the whole conversation. Whether they do or not, they'll still walk away with something that's helpful, and they might even get what I like to call trapped in the cycle of watching all the YouTube videos. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll keep you updated on what's actually happening with this. With this strategy, I think will actually help us with consistency and increase the amount of content we're able to put out and repurpose from a very long form content. One thing I just recently found with our audience that we are starting to touch and engage with is that shorts and segments seem to be doing best when I post them at 12 p.m. during the day in our Pacific time zone. Not sure why that is, rather than podcast, where it seems to be doing pretty good between 4 to 6 a.m., where we're really trying to target and strategically hit people who are going into their work on commute, and also people who are on the East Coast. And so with these segments and shorts, most people, when they're just, if you will, doom scrolling or just looking for content to watch, a lot of times it does actually fall in this 12 p.m. time frame. And so I'll continue doing some testing with this. I'll actually try out some 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. posts, but we've actually gotten a lot of traction on shorts when we post at 12. So the changes for talents is pretty simple moving forward, is to continue testing but stay consistent with what we're doing. And I think the real results will come in maybe a month or two, where we'll be able to actually look at this and make big adjustments rather than just make constant minor adjustments. And so we're creating a system on the back end of how do we make this efficient. And I think the biggest thing going into this is to keep pressure on consistency while we continue to learn. I'll leave you with this. Got a quote for the day. We got, if your motivation for acquiring money or success comes from a non-supportive root, such as fear, anger, or the need to prove yourself, your money will never bring you happiness. Practice coming from purpose and joy. I'll let you think about that.